Hi everyone, my name is Hannah and I work for Sierra Club running the Wild Child program, or you can call me by my nature nickname, which is Mushroom. And today I'm really excited because we're launching a new series called Foraging Fridays, where every Friday I'm going to post some information about some local plants or weeds that you can eat or use in other ways around the house. And so today's the first one. So I'm here in my garden, as you can see. Gosh, it feels good to be in the garden and dig my hands in the dirt. If you haven't tried gardening before, this might be a really good year to start if you have a little bit more time. Even if it's just a pot of basil in the window or something on the balcony. Gardening is really wonderful because it's quite forgiving. If you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. You can just try again the next year. And gardening has taught me a lot about abundance and about how very small things like seeds can turn into a bounty of harvest, and how when you start gardening you realize there is more than enough for everyone and enough to share. And sharing is really great, whether it's, sharing tomatoes from your garden, or, if someone's sad and wants a hug, sharing a hug with them, or sharing compliments with people about a cool shirt they're wearing, or how they did the hair in a cool way. So yeah, just a reminder to, whether you're gardening or not, to share some of what you have because there is a lot to give. One of the plants that I'm really grateful for that has given me a lot of its joy and medicine and food is the dandelion, and that's the plant, or the weed, whatever you'd like to call it, is the plant that I want to talk to you about today. So the first thing you want to do when you're going to forage any kind of plant is to learn how to identify it properly. And this time of year, the dandelion flowers aren't out yet, but I'm telling you about the dandelions now because it's actually the perfect time to harvest dandelion roots and leaves before the flowers come out, because once the flowers come out, the leaves and the roots get a little bit more bitter. So now is the perfect time to harvest the leaves and the roots, and so you want to learn how to identify the leaves, and they're really distinctive, so it's actually quite easy. But a really fun thing you could do is to go outside in your backyard, find a dandelion and draw it out. It's got these great lobes in the leaves that are really unlike a lot of other plants. So you see those lobes, and then it has this really long taproot. And a taproot, lots of trees have different kinds of roots. Some plants have roots that go out in all directions, and others have roots like this, like one big main root that goes down the bottom, and then other smaller roots to the side, and that's called a taproot. So once you feel really certain that you can identify dandelions correctly, and if you're not so sure, you can look things up on the internet, or maybe you've got a book about plants lying around, or maybe you could message me, or you've got someone else in your life that knows a lot about plants. Once you're sure, then you want to start digging it up. And if you want to try to get the dandelion roots, you can see how big and far down those roots go. They go really far. So you want to dig around the plant in order to try to get as much of the root as possible. And I find if you've got a garden available to you, it's the easiest way to get the dandelion roots, because the soil in the garden is really rich and it's a bit looser than like in a field of grass, for example. It's really hard to get the roots. But if you've only got a field of grass available to you, you can just go for the leaves, and you can cut the leaves off with a pair of scissors and harvest the plant that way. There it is. So once you have enough dandelions for you, I've got a whole big basket full of the leaves and the roots. You want to go home and separate the leaves from the roots, and clean it off as well as you can, and then soak them in salt water. And the salt water actually helps reduce the bitterness, because dandelions are a little bit bitter, and that's actually some of its power and magic, because dandelions are really good at helping in digestion in the stomach, and they're also really high in calcium and potassium. And I got all this information from one of my favorite books, The Boreal Herbal by Beverly Gray. But all of this information is also, you can just Google it, and there's a lot of information out there about what you can do with dandelions once you've harvested them, and I'm also going to show you some of my favorite things to do with dandelions. Once you get home, you want to separate the leaves from the roots, rinse them off, and then have them soak in some salt water. And the salt water actually helps remove some of the bitterness to make it more tasty. And then from there, you can just use them like you would any other kind of green, like spinach. You can put them right into a fresh salad. You can add them to your scrambled eggs in the morning. Or I made just like a quick side of cooked greens by boiling them, again, in some salt water. And then adding them to some caramelized onions, which again helps offset the bitterness, and with some garlic and some hot pepper. And when I strained out the greens after boiling them, I actually kept the liquid and put it in the fridge as dandelion tea, which I drank kind of half a cup every once in a while. And it's really good for your digestion. It cleanses your kidneys really well. Though I do really want to say that I'm not a doctor, nutritionist, naturopath. So it's really important that you do a little bit of Googling or investigation to make sure that this works well for your body. Anything that you forage or haven't really tried before. Make sure you do what works well for you, because we're all on different medications and our bodies are all really different. So that was one really great meal, and I actually made something else with the dandelion greens, which was vegetarian Jamaican veggie patties, which were fantastic, and I'll put the recipe below, and I highly recommend you try it out. So to make the patties, you make a quick dough by adding some spices to some flour, adding some butter, splitting them up, and then cooking up some onions with some spices, adding the cooked dandelion greens and cabbage, rolling out the dough, adding the filling, and then shaping them into patty form with a fork, and then baking them in the oven for 20 minutes at 375 degrees, and gosh, they are so good! So you may be wondering what you're supposed to now do with the roots. And so there's a couple things you can do. Once you've cleaned them all off, you can just let them dry for like 2 weeks and then roast them carefully in the oven and grind them up for a dandelion coffee. I'm actually going to turn them into a tincture. So for a tincture, it just is usually done with alcohol, like vodka or brandy, but you can also do it with apple cider vinegar if you want to do it with your kids. And it just helps extract some of the medicine and the nutrients in the roots, and then you can take it. The dandelion root makes a really good digestive bitter, so it's something that you would take a little bit before you eat a meal, and it helps stimulate your stomach acids and actually increases the amount of hydrochloric acid, which can help uptake more nutrients in whatever food you're going to eat, especially calcium. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you want to do this, you cut it up really finely and then add it to a jar and fill it up with whatever substrate you're using. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I already can't wait till next week's Foraging Friday video. And remember to take care of yourself, take care of others, and take care of nature. Bye!